Okay, we're good.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Schiele Museum. My name is Keely Zimmerman. I'm the live animal manager today, and you guys voted, and you voted on our opossum. So here you guys get to meet Hazel, our Virginia opossum. Now, as always, feel free, if you're listening in, to say hello in the comment feed, ask questions. We'll be happy to answer, and if we don't get to them during our live feed, we will definitely answer later. So to get started on Hazel, to let you know a little bit where she came from. So she came from Paws Animal Wildlife Sanctuary in South Carolina. She was hit by a car. So you guys might be able to tell she's actually missing an eye, although she likes to turn this way where she can see everybody. So she keeps her side that's missing an eye towards me. She feels safer that way. But she was hit by a car, they believe. A Good Samaritan found her along the side of the road and brought her into Paws, where their veterinarian decided that the eye needed to be removed. There was some trauma on the side of her face, and so she took a while to heal. Possums don't have great eyesight to begin with, so she was deemed non-releasable after that happened to her. And then what ended up happening was we were looking for a possum. At the same time, they were looking for an educational facility. So it worked out great. We got Hazel. That was about a year and a half ago, maybe now. It's been a little while, but she's doing great here with us. I'm going to put her down on the ground so everyone kind of gets a chance to look at her and get a chance to check out her tail. You'll notice she doesn't have any fur on her tail, so we'll talk about what she uses her tail for in a little bit. Okay, here you go, Hazel. She's going to want to hold on to me just like she'd hold on to a tree until she feels safely on the ground. There we go. Okay. So, for starters, let's start with Virginia opossum. So everyone calls them possums, which is entirely fine. However, there is a group of animals in Australia called possums. This just starts with a P. So it gets kind of confusing in the animal world, so we focus on these guys being opossums. They're a little bit different. Now, does anyone know what makes possums really unique? There's lots of things, but for starters, anyone know what marsupial means? So that means they carry their young in a pouch. They're the only mammal in North America that's able to do that. So they carry their babies in a pouch, and they can have lots of babies. What happens is they are born into that pouch and actually slowly develop in there, and then will then start coming out and crawling on their back. So yes, if you see possums walking around with a bunch of babies on their backs, they all started in that pouch. It takes months for them to fully develop like that and be on their own. And then right now, I'm sure Hazel's ready for her breakfast. So we'll talk a little bit about what possums eat. Do you guys think possums are omnivores, herbivores, or carnivores? It's a great job, guys. Possums are omnivores. They eat meat and plants. So here is Hazel's food for the day. You'll notice there's a wide variety of things. We feed a special type of dog food for protein. There's also shrimp in there today for protein, but that varies. And yep, she's going to dig on in. And there's some almonds for protein. It's also very important, though, that they get a large percentage. I knew she'd go for a shrimp first. A large percentage of vegetables and fruits and things like that. So you'll notice she has a lot of spinach in there today. She has some beets in there as well for vegetables, and she has a small amount of apple for her fruit. She's going to dig on in. You'll notice by when she picked that up, so possums are really cool the way they can grip things and climb trees. They actually have opposable thalluses, or big toes, that help them grip onto things, like we have opposable thumbs. So that's kind of helps them with climbing and helps them with grabbing food and things like that. Back to that tail. Have you guys seen Ice Age the movie? So I know a lot of people think because of that movie, possums can hang upside down by their tails and they sleep that way. That is not correct. They use their tail more for balance, helping grip as they climb, but they can't hang by it. It's not strong enough to hold their whole body weight for long periods of time. However, Ice Age does tell us that possums have been around since the mammoths, which is awesome. So a very long time that they've been here and they have survived. Now, I did say that opossums are the only marsupial in North America. However, there are multiple species of possums now that are worldwide, and then in the Americas. So in Mexico, you can find short-tailed possums. They look a little different. Feel free to kind of look that up and see kind of how they look different from our Virginia opossum, which is found right here in North Carolina. Now, before I tell you some more cool facts about possums, does anyone have any questions about Hazel here, or opossums in general?
There's one question about if they can kill chickens.
Okay, so I do get that question. Lots of animals can kill chickens, especially if they're hungry and looking for a food source. They can get into chicken coops. Possums have been known to do that. Raccoons and other things tend to be more common, but if you look up on North Carolina Wildlife Resources website, they actually give you a fact sheet if you search for it properly that tells you what it actually looks like if your chicken's been eaten, and to help you figure out the clues to figure out what actually attacked it. Your best bet, though, to keep wildlife out of your chicken coop is to just make sure you have wire netting everything and it's fully secured so that nothing can actually get in there to harm them. Any other questions? I'm trying hard to grab right now. Okay, so some other things. I personally love possums. They're one of my favorite animals. They're another one of those misunderstood creatures lots of people are afraid of, but they do some amazing things. So for starters, can anyone tell me, what do possums do when they get scared? So I'm sure you guessed it, they play dead. And so most of the time, even if you hear a possum hiss or growl at you, if you continue to try to mess with it, it is going to play dead. And they're highly unlikely to attack. And when they play dead, it's really neat. To make it really seem like they're dead to other animals, they let off a smell. Here's not quite as bad as like a skunk, but a foul smell to really smell like a dead, decaying animal. And they also slow down their heart rate and stuff like that, so they really seem like they're dead. So their heart will beat really slow, like some animals do during hibernation and things like that. And then that way, a predator hopefully thinks they're dead and leaves it alone, because just like us, we don't want to eat something that's already kind of been rotting and sitting around for a while. Neither do animals out in nature. Now, for any of you that are afraid of possums, some really cool facts about possums. So one, a possum can eat over 5,000 ticks in an entire year. So during those summer months, over 5,000 ticks. So if you guys don't like ticks, which I haven't met someone that does yet, they help us with that, which helps keep down Lyme disease and other diseases like that. Before going any further, you guys have any more questions?
When is their primary time of activity?
Okay, so they are more crepuscular. Does anyone know what that means? Okay, it means they're more awake during dawn and dusk. Yes, they can be seen at night, and yes, sometimes they can be seen during the day. Like a lot of animals, when their food source is available is when you're going to see them more likely. So you may see a possum walking around in the middle of the day with her babies trying to find some food and things for them. So it's not that they're just nocturnal and you're only going to see them at night, although more commonly we do see them at night because it's safer to come out when it's dark and there's not a lot of other predators and things around that can find them.
Are they mostly solitary animals?
Yes, so possums do not live together unless they're siblings. In fact, in captivity, they will not tolerate each other unless they were born together as siblings. On occasion, you can get a mom to raise young possums herself, but you can't really introduce possums that have not been around each other before. So some other cool things about possums and why I love them. So we're talking about how they eat lots of ticks. Another thing is that they are immune to venom from copperheads and rattlesnakes and things like that. And sometimes they'll even try to eat something if it's around and present. But that's really cool because they are using possums to study what mechanism makes them immune to those toxins. And so hopefully they can develop a more wide-range anti-venom. And they've been working with that and using possums to help with research and things that'll help human beings.
How many teeth do they have?
So possums have 50 teeth, more than any other mammal around here, including us. So they have lots and lots and lots of teeth that are very useful in being able to eat the variety of food that they eat. It's also, a fun trip to the dentist to get 50 teeth cleaned. But luckily, possums are pretty good at keeping their teeth cleaned, using their food and different things like that to help, kind of like your dog. If they eat hard foods, and it kind of breaks down some of that tartar.
What's their biggest predator?
The biggest predator would be humans, unfortunately, like a lot of animals, because they have that mechanism to play dead, and they were around before humans were around. When cars and other things come by, they don't know any better. I mean, their first mechanism is to freeze and kind of protect themselves. So, cars and humans and traffic and, we've built roads throughout their habitats. Has been detrimental to them. Possums in the wild are lucky to live a year. So they'll typically reproduce once, and that'll be it. In captivity, possums live 3 to 5 years, and that's a really good lifespan for a possum.
What's Hazel's favorite food?
So that's a very interesting one. So Hazel, we haven't found really has a favorite food. We've had other possums that love things like peanut butter or cockroaches. She enjoys eating, but she's not highly food motivated. So if we were to do enrichment, which we've talked about before, kind of using different toys and things to stimulate natural behavior and try to stimulate foraging, she'll just leave it there. She likes to just eat and sleep and eat and sleep. And then she'll pop out once a day. She gets to do what she's doing right now. She'll get to come out, eat, and kind of walk around and get a little bit of activity. But that's the most she wants out of her life. So
does she have a favorite enrichment toy?
Again, she really doesn't like a lot she sleeps with. She loves this bed. So if you want to talk about her favorite bed, is this bed. We actually went through a variety of beds trying to find which one she liked the best. Possums typically don't like to sleep out in the open like she does. However, one, probably because she was rescued at a young age, and two, we think maybe due to the injury and stuff that she really likes being able to sleep in the open so she can see from that one side if something's going on. So it's luckily for us, she's a great animal ambassador then, and our guests get to come see her when she's on exhibit.
What kind of resources are available if you find it injured?
So great question. So a few things to note if you do find a possum that you think needs help. We talked about those babies. So possums are like one of the few animals around here or mammals that if they drop their young, if they're not there in the picture anymore, they're not going to come back. If they drop one of their joeys or their young, that joey's going to try to run up and jump back on mom's back. But mom's not going to, stop for long. She's not going to quit going. She has so many to take care of. So if you do find a very young one, that's a great time to get a rehabilitator. And obviously if you find one like Hazel that got injured by a car, something that happens, that's still alive. In fact, if you see a possum hit along the side of the road, if it's safe, it's great to check and see if she has any joeys or babies in her pouch, because a lot of times that's missed and they can be saved. We have a variety of rehabilitators in our area that do possums. It's one of the common ones. So the easiest thing is feel free to call the Schiele Museum. And ask for me, and I'd be happy, Keely Zimmerman again, and I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. Some rehabbers right now can't take in animals just during this time period, but I have a lot of different contacts and people that I talk to. Another resource is if you look up that, again, on NC Wildlife Resources Commission, they actually list rehabbers by county, so you can actually look up different rehabilitators with their phone numbers and contact them.
Where do possums usually sleep?
So where do possums usually sleep? So they will sleep a lot of times up in a tree where they can get off the ground and away from predators. And it's actually pretty cool. Possums will travel over a mile a day or an evening during their 24 hours in order to find food and things like that. So they actually do a fair amount of walking around and need a good amount of exercise. So one other really cool fact I need to tell you guys about possums is that it's very rare for them to have rabies. So a lot of people are scared of that with a lot of wildlife and things around. Possums actually have very low body temperatures in comparison to the rest of the mammals. And they think that might be why rabies cannot incubate within their body. So the only real cases of rabies in a possum would be a possum that was already sick or something that already caused like a temperature spike or something like that. So the animal wouldn't be able to last very long if it did get rabies. So you don't have to worry about these guys having rabies. Now, like all wildlife, they can carry a variety of different diseases. So, if you see something, leave it alone unless it needs your help and watch from a distance and enjoy.
What's your favorite fun fact about Hazel?
So my favorite fun fact, probably about possums and stuff I've already said about how they eat that many ticks and they don't, contract rabies and all the things that kind of people are afraid of them. I love to teach them why not to be afraid and why they're so important to have around.
Do they have a nest or do they roam?
So they don't build a nest like if you looked at squirrels or things like that, like up in a tree like that. So they're more roaming. They have that pouch to help carry their young in, so they don't need to raise their young in like a nest cavity or things like that. They have been known to utilize, other animals, homes, burrows, things like that for safety and protection. But they're not sitting there and building something. Any other questions? Awesome, you guys have been asking some awesome questions about Hazel today. I appreciate it. As I said, I love possums, love talking about them. So if anything else pops up, please feel free to ask in our comment feed. One last thing I do need to talk about before we say goodbye to Hazel is, we've talked about possums, why they're great in the environment. We've introduced you to Hazel, but why do we have a possum here? Why is it a good animal ambassador? And a lot of those facts I've already told you are great reasons. There's also a lot of possums that do get injured, and so some of them can make some great educational animals. And it's great to have that one-on-one, experience with an animal. You might not quite understand, what it does and its purpose if you see it out in the wild, but I've grown a great amount of respect with working with possums within captivity like this, and realized how important they are to us and how much we need them, and I want to share that passion with everybody else. So we hope to always have a possum ambassador here at the Schiele Museum. So thank you guys again for joining. Let's say goodbye to Hazel. Thank you, Hazel, for enjoying your food today, eating, showing us what you like to do the majority of your time, and hopefully I'll see you guys next week.